Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail with a Scrolls Let's Spectate, a game between OwlSage and Dodder. Two players that I'm pretty familiar with, and I know you have seen a little bit from OwlSage recently, but these are just the games that pop up and they're playing. So let's see kind of how it goes. Dodder playing a mono growth deck, at least as far as I could tell from the brief flash up there. OwlSage playing a mono order deck, so this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Typically a matchup that favors order if it's going to be a late game kind of order play, but growth tends to, because if you can get the right draws and get the right ramp, it can stomp tempo order. So this is going to be interesting to see kind of what OwlSage has in his pocket and what Dodder is able to do as well. Both of these players are very skilled. I've played both of them. They both whoop my butt, at least as far as I know, but what else is new? So OwlSage can drop a Wings Captain early, which is especially nice, and he's going to be keeping it out of harm's way from the Kinfolk Brave and the Berserker. Of course, Dodder, one resource away from getting a Kinfolk Veteran. And this is what you really like with growth, especially with Breaker being a 3 cost here, is if you can play something that costs 2 resources, 3 resources, 4 resources, 5 resources. Getting a card out every turn, especially with the Rat King, is ridiculously powerful. Of course, OwlSage is going to be able to possibly focus and drop a Royal Spearman in front of his Wings Captain. So that's going to do some good here. It's not going to clear the row entirely, but he can go ahead and take out one Rat, the Breaker, which is a card that you want to get out as soon as possible, and put some damage on the Kinfolk Brave. I don't know if OwlSage is running with Kabonks. I think he is. If he is, it's going to be really nice to have that Brave down to 1 health, although I'm sure he'd like to have ways to actually take it down. So Sage thinking about his turn at this point, as like I said before, this is a curious matchup to me. He is going for 5 order here, and if he is playing a tempo deck, one thing that I've seen some players maybe shoot themselves in the foot a little bit with order tempo is that they really get hesitant to go above 4 resources, and that limits the amount of plays you can make per turn. Now your goal is to get creatures on the board here, and I'm sure OwlSage doesn't like the idea of top decking right now, which could be one reason for hesitation, but there's the play. And there is 2 creatures and damage on another. That's worth top decking at round 5 this early in the game. Sage was getting really close to getting overwhelmed on the board. Now a Kinfolk Vet is going to come in, and there is going to be some damage to the Wings Captain, but still that's a kind of trade that you have to make there. Unfortunately, he's got to get something up. That Wings Captain, I know he doesn't want to ditch that Wings Captain. Getting 2 of them out are fantastic, but that's the problem with top decking sometimes. So fortunately for OwlSage, he can get out another Royal Spearman to protect his Wings Captain. He's not going to be able to take out the Kinfolk Brave here, and Collar's Bane not going to do a whole lot for him here, but at least between these 2 attacks he'll be able to put some good damage on and deter this Kinfolk Brave from attacking. Actually, there we go. I can't math. That's right, it's because that's 3 damage to what's going on here. So Royal Skirmisher saves the day. Hooray! Dodder with a Quake and a Vetter of the Wild. Not a lot of cards he can play. And is he actually going to sacrifice his Beast Rat to do damage here? I guess so. Interesting. You know what that tells me if I'm sitting here as OwlSage? It's he has a Quake in his pocket, and he's not afraid to use it. Because he has 3 cards in his hand, he has 5 resources. He either got a really crappy draw, and God Hand is not a great card to have in this situation. But it's easy for me to say spectating looking out here. I guess the question now is, does OwlSage wait for the Quake and kind of sag back and take some time getting some cards forward? Or is he going to go ahead and drop something like a Wing Shield and hope to avoid getting Kinfolk Veteran here? It's the question of the day. Because right now a Quake would take out 2 units. Once again though, with Quake as usual, the question is, what would Dodder have to follow up with it? The answer is, we don't know. But I'm completely expecting a Quake from Dodder here, as I am hearing some chat messages. I'm not sure if that's trade or what. I'm getting a lot of spam in trade chat lately, actually. It's a little weird, but that's another conversation for another time, because right now we got Quake. Oh, units down. OwlSage wisely sagging off and not playing units, expecting the Quake to come in. Still has his Relentless unit down on the bottom. If there's a double Quake, he's not going to feed into it, and he is going to just get some more cards here. Flip is okay. Horn of Age is pretty nice against growth to at least control their movement. Is this the time to get more creatures down? At least the Wing Shield, because there's not a ton of incentive for Dodder to double Quake here. But at least that single Quake getting rid of the Wings Captain. And Dodder's a person that I've seen before say a few times, hey, how do you deal with Wings Captain? Direct damage is going to be key, and that's where you see some growth players. Actually, running with Frostgale is good. Some of them I've seen slip back in with poison damage with Ranger's Bane. So, Dodder getting some good creatures here. He could put out a Vetter of the Wild, and he's not going to get his Kinfolk Brave out, but he does have a Sister of the Bear. He can put down 2 creatures, out-tempoing the potential tempo deck here. But right now, not too many plays for OwlSage to make. That flip can be valuable to take out a high-priority target, but for now, it could be Royal Skirmisher, Ducal Infantryman, which are a very nice combo to have. So there's the Infantryman, and there is everybody's attack going up by 1. Good place to be for OwlSage. Dodder getting a very timely Fertile Soil, but he ditches it. He ditches it and gets another Quake. I don't know. If I were playing, it's possible I could have Fertile Soul the Sister of the Fox, but you got to start looking out for getting behind in the creature department, or wondering if he's just going to say, excuse me while I Quake again. But right now, he's getting out the creatures he needs to get out, holds on to that Quake, and that's where Dodder, at least in terms of his strategy, it looks like he's mainly just trying to keep up with the creatures that Sage puts on the board here. But let's see here. He could flip the Kinfolk Brave and move it down and kill it, or he could try and draw something better. He could flip the Vetter of the Wild. Some people really like to target those early, but if OwlSage is playing Kabonk, that could be a thing. Wings Captain, though, is likely going to be the play. There's going to be plenty of time to kill that Kinfolk Brave. OwlSage not running with Redeploy. Redeploy, a really good card on paper, but I don't see too many people using it. As you can see, OwlSage moving up, and that means there is going to be a Horn of Ages getting played here. So expect Horn of Ages and Wings Captain for OwlSage, and that's really going to mess up Dodder's day just a little bit. Horn of Ages, like I said, it has a very high, or has a very good utility against Growth, because Growth really likes to move and shuffle things around. But see, now Dodder's kind of having the issue of he could Quake himself to death, he could God Hand potentially and take out this shield there, and that may be the order of the day. But if he Frost Gales, that's not going to do a lot of good. If he Ragged Wolves, that's not going to do a ton of good, because he could put some Ragged Wolf damage on the Wings Captain, probably just because he doesn't have much else. That Wings Captain is exposed right now, and that's not going to last. And between Quake and Frostgale, he can kill it if things get nasty. But with the God Hand, that could do a lot of good work, unfortunately, with the God Hand. Actually, what could be really nice for OwlSage is if he just elects to cast Decimation. He could do a crap ton of damage with these units here as well, and I think he has enough damage to actually, yes, he does have enough damage to clear that row, clear the Sister of the Bear, if he so desires, and then the Wings Captain's going to be coming the next turn. Then Dodder, I expect, will Quake. So there's the Decimation, and OwlSage is going to be likely moving on up here, there we go, just to try and get the extra damage. Once again, the Wings Captain remains exposed, but I mean, at this point, or actually, OwlSage is going to tuck the Wings Captain behind the Wing Shield and just keep it there. Because Armor 1 is all you need. Aging Knight and Wing Soldier is actually 2 very good draws here. Aging Knight will be able to attack next turn. In fact, an Aging Knight might not have been bad up here to just try and take out the Vetter of the Wild, but I can totally see why putting it behind Wing Shield would be good, because for every creature that's behind Wing Shield, you get +1 armor. That's damage reduction for this unit. It's an amazingly good common, and a staple in many order decks. Alright, so what do we got here? It looks like it's Quake time, baby. And then Frostgale, that's a board clear. OwlSage being in control, and then, well, what can you do? Dodder just getting back into the game. But the difference, once again, and this is where things are going to get really dicey, is that Dodder only has 1 card in his hand. OwlSage has 4. OwlSage has 2 creatures that he can play. Dodder, I think he may still have a God Hand in his hand. He may have ditched it, but he doesn't have a lot to follow up with the Quake. But still, at that point, you can feel the game getting out of hand. He's just going to keep resetting until he can get in a better situation. OwlSage taking the opportunity to get to 6 resources, putting Plating down. Plating should prevent Quake damage as well, but Dodder getting a Sister of the Owl, which is a, ooh, actually, that is a really nice draw there. So getting the Sister of the Owl and another Vetter out. And Sister of the Owl, if you can get multiple Sisters on the floor at the same time, it is very, very devastating. Of course, usually when I do it, people follow it up by Quaking me immediately, since it seems to only happen for me in Growth versus Growth matchups. So, The sisters just end up being 2/4 creatures. But still is a card that forces a reaction. And at this point, OwlSage probably wanting to get creatures on the board. Decimation being okay. He's going to wisely move his soldiers out of the way of the owl. You want to play Growth, especially Growth showing 8 resources as always having a God Hand in their hand. You always have to ask yourself, what would you do with the God Hand? And Dodder actually is going to be able to play a lot of stuff here. He could save dropping the Ancestral Totem for later, but there's the Sister of the Fox first. And then a God Hand, so there we go. There's the God Hand in his pocket. And a Kinfolk Veteran, which is going to be not great right now because that... Oh, well, there we go. He's going to use the Kinfolk Veteran, but that is going to trigger the plating on there. Or excuse me, not the plating, the plate armor. So armor 1, that means this guy doesn't die, but he really wants to protect his Vetter. And right now, OwlSage can actually ruin Dodder's day just a little bit by casting a Decimation, but he's going to throw Wing Shield down instead. Is he going to decimate the top row? That would get rid of 2 owls, and that will buff this Sister of the Owl to 5 health due to the 1 damage from Decimation, and there we go. But still, the Vetter's here. That means the God Hand is coming. At least this unit doesn't get to get more attacks in. But right away, God Hand, what's that really going to do for him? He can play the Ragged Wolf as well back here with 9 resources, and we're going to be having a top deck from Dodder. At this point, he's going to be able to clear OwlSage's board. This is why you play Growth. You try and stay consistent as you can. Just get the board, and that's where people really complain about Quake, because you get to take the board off again and keep trying to reset it until you get a situation that's in your favor. And right now, this is where in the metagame, this kind of order deck really wants to rush and get games done early for the same reason Growth wants to rush and get games done early, because they're just not as strong in the late game. And cards like Sister of the Owl are fantastic late game cards. And this deck has Wings Captain, which is great all throughout the game, but there's not a ton of big heavy hitter finishers in OwlSage's deck. It's just meant to overwhelm you. So Sister of the Owl is going to be coming down. You can bet your bottom something or other for it. And don't forget, with Sister of the Owl, those owls will actually buff the Sister. And now he's going to have to play with Decimation on his mind. But those owls, when they do damage, will buff both of their attacks. So Dodder getting back in control all of the sudden here. Royal Skirmisher and Ducal Skirmisher. Very good cards. But it's going to be very, very difficult to keep them alive. Because pretty much if they're moved down 1 row... Okay, so he's going to move his units around just a little bit. Try and get them in attacking position. And there's a Skirmisher, which is important for the armor of the Wing Shield. And OwlSage really in trouble at this point. That Wing Shield can die here. And the question, I guess part of the question for OwlSage is, does he want to play both of his creatures this turn and risk a rally? And no, he's going to hold on to the Skirmisher here. So there's oh my gosh, a Rat King. I don't even know if the Rat King's that great at this point. But there's the rally. That's exactly what Sage had to be fearing just a little bit. So that rally, he could actually rally and Fertile Soil in the same turn, or he can rally and Rat King, save the Fertile Soil for next turn. This is Dodder's game to lose at this point. That Wing Shield is going to be going down here, and a very nice strategy by Dodder with his unit placement here, placing it so that his owls will attack first. Because it's front row, top to bottom, so both of the owls will attack, buffing the attack to 4. And this is just a nightmare scenario for OwlSage. You don't want to face the rally pretty much ever. But at this point, he's down to 1 Skirmisher, and this is nasty. Just nasty. OwlSage, he does have a focus. That's good. But the focus is not going to end the game at this point. Still, though, you got to make the plays that you can make. Sometimes you just don't have a lot of choice here. So focus, is he going to play plate armor as well? If Dodder has another rally, this is going to be a good game. I mean, he has plenty of damage that he can spread out. He can kill 3 idols very quickly. If there's a God Hand, this is a good game. He does have a Fertile Soil and a Vetter, so that's there's not really a lot there. So maybe not total GG. But Fertile Soil on one of the cards here. So at this point, looks like it's going to be an Ancestral Totem next turn. He could do Kinfolk Veteran Ancestral Totem next turn. Probably good to get a Breaker out, or Kinfolk Veteran, so he is just going to put damage on the Spearman. And that Spearman going to be alive a little bit longer. OwlSage in a not terrible place. I mean, for as many creatures as Dodder has on the board, he has a lot of small creatures. So he's not totally out of this yet. He has to choose his decimation spot wisely. Because right now, the way Dodder has his board arranged, decimation's not going to totally clear anything. So he goes for the bottom here. That's going to be at least one idol down next turn. Gets another infantryman out, and there's your top deck right there. Dodder with that Fertile Soul going really well, and Ancestral Totem is going to be dropping very, very shortly here, and that is going to be the game, folks. So that's kind of how growth versus order can work, as we just have some cursory putting out other cards here. Good game from Dodder and OwlSage, but pretty much that's how it goes. When you have tempo order, you got to really get that board under your control in a hurry. And if you can't, especially with a reset button as big as Quake from growth, Dodder just kept recycling the board until he was able to get the advantage that he needed. So criticize Quake as much as you want. It's been around for a very, very long time. But that's kind of how it's supposed to work there. So OwlSage getting some good draws early, getting a nice hand, getting some Wings Captains out, but not being able to do a lot of bit. Dodder playing the long game and taking this one home. So this is Way to Fail with another Scrolls. Let's spectate! Woohoo! That's it for now. This is probably one of the last games I'll be spectating before the patch drops that switches the rated system over. So maybe we'll get some more rated rank spectating. But hey, for now, if you just want to play, feel free to play. Go out there. Your rating can do whatever it wants. So that's it for now. This is Way to Fail. Feel free to like or comment on this video. Leave your thoughts. Complain about Quake. Whatever you want to say. It's all good. I will see you all next time.